and this is WP Watercooler episode number 357. Today we're talking about WordPress block library, and we're all very much so dressed appropriately in our blockheads. Let's go around the room real quick and get everyone introduced. Cosper, is it? Do we have to put like Cosper blockhead at the end? Is that what it is? Cosper, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
Y'all know who it is, Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg. Just here to talk some blocks today. So let's get on those block rocking beats.
I just need you to know that a new goal that just popped up, like a little in my achievement list, is to get Matt Mullenweg to call you Fat Mullenweg, like that.
At the state of the word.
Yeah, that just popped up, and it was like, like in the Goose Game, it's like new.
State of the word would be epic.
Yep.
He wouldn't do that though because of the anyway, whatever. Okay.
Steve, how about you? Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself.
Was that me?
Yeah, Steve, go for it.
I am Steve Zengen. Steve Zengen. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Good to have you. Say, how about you? Tell us about yourself.
I am just playing with my mouth. Hey, Reed, and I make WordPress, Beach WordPress, Deech WordPress, not Say Reed Media.
On all the things.
I'm happy to be here.
How about you, Russ?
Y'all know who it is. I've been over here for a little bit. It's a block directory. You know who I am.
Oh my God.
I can't do this with a serious face. I'm Russell Aaron. I do things with WordPress and welcome to the block directory, I guess. Is this what it's going to be like? Is it going to be in this kind of grid? Like, does anybody know what this thing looks like?
It looks pretty awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. I do the show as well as another show called WP Blab. We had the one and only Russell Aaron on the show today. Russ, is that any relation? And so, yeah, we had a good time over there hanging out, talking about like funding your open source projects by being employed. So yeah, we talked about that. That was a lot of good fun, and it was I liked it. So anyhow, I do want to let you know that yeah, right. I do want to let you know that this episode of WP Watercooler is brought to you by ServerPress, makers of desktop server. They make local WordPress development easy. Go check them out over at serverpress.com. Thank you very much for Mark and his team for helping us out. We appreciate it.
Dude, I gotta say, we had him explaining WP Site Sync on the meetup on Monday.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Awesome product. You absolutely need to check that out.
We got to have him come on the show and discuss it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll make sure to put a link in show notes over, because I did see you guys did get that posted over on. Is it available on YouTube, or is it only on the Facebook?
I put it on YouTube. You can link it.
Perfect.
It's on the YouTube.
Oh man, I love that. I have no idea like what anyone's actually looking like. It's just some crazy.
I'm making faces.
I know you're like.
Fun fact: Steve actually has more YouTube videos than blog posts.
It's true. It's true.
I don't think I've ever seen a Steve YouTube video.
Never seen a Steve blog post either.
But it's a private channel. I'll send you the link.
I want to see. I'm excited now.
So let's talk a little bit about block libraries. You guys have been you pitched this idea of talking about block libraries. I don't use Gutenberg at all. I haven't used Gutenberg at all. So, no, I haven't at all.
Such a Luddite.
Dude.
I'm
gonna say, listen, I know we've talked about it a lot on this show. Gutenberg's great.
It's great, man.
Also, Gutenberg allows you, if you string them together right, you can actually make old terrible themes do things.
Great again?
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna say that, right? You can't make
okay.
Okay. But yeah, you can basically do that because you can, you just call up, things about a templates that are all tangled together or whatever, and you just call up a blank template. You can actually, make some stuff happen on the page, and your client can do things that they've been trying to do for the past, 10 years. And you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel if they can't afford to reinvent the wheel at the moment, or they're not able to reinvent.
Can I just tell you how great it is not having to tell people to put the YouTube link to embed the video online? Now you just say, click this block and sit here and hit embed, and it does it. Like, that is so much better than saying, okay, Jason, hit a break tag. Oh, you don't know what a break tag is? Okay, open bracket. Like, this is way easier.
I've found that exact same thing. Once I've shown my clients how to add a block, how to edit blocks, and sort of the basics, they're done. Like, they're fully trained. It's awesome.
Pretty cool. I think the only thing I haven't been successful on is, well, there's been some weird things like when the classic paragraph pops up for no reason. But I think the hardest thing to teach people is the shortcuts, which they don't really need. So, it works out.
Yeah. So could you guys define what a block library is versus just a block?
You can. Yeah, according to Wikipedia. No.
Let me look it up on my face real fast.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll take a quick stab at this. I mean, WordPress ships with a default set of blocks, right? So you have things like paragraph, heading, image, all the O embeds. Those are already blocks, and so those are just the standard blocks that come installed with the default WordPress. And so I think what we're talking about today is blocks you can add to that default set.
Yeah, that's fine, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is actually going to be a directory. Think of like the plugin repository. Like when you go into the dashboard, you want to add a new plugin, hit add new, you search your plugin. It's going to be like that for blocks, man. Like, you want to do this for a block, you're going to hit install and it's going to come over. And the way that I've heard this compared to things is that the block directory is going to be what the plugin directory should have been like. There's going to be a lot more stricter guidelines about what can add and what you can put links with. It's going to be a better user interface instead of just having add on the side of every setting screen or something,
And just to clarify, that may be coming, but that's not how it is right now, right? And so
Sure.
if you do want to add a new block library, you're still going to be adding a plugin at this point.
Sure.
Correct. But there's some really great ones out there. And Casper, you were talking about I have my favorite, or I don't even know if it's a favorite because I haven't used all of them yet, because if you just get one call to action block, your life has changed so much that you feel so much loyalty to that call to action block. No. But Casper, you were wanting to talk about it, so I won't.
Yeah.
Team.
Yeah, no, I've actually found that some of the blocks from Sorta Brilliant, and I'll make sure that makes it into the show notes. Love the name. They have a bunch of really great blocks. They have ones that basically help you make lists. Even though there is a list plugin in there, there's an even easier, lazier way to make lists. There's one called Fancy Links that I really love, where when you put a link in, it actually kind of has like a screenshot of and like an excerpt of the website included, so you can actually have like a bigger call to action in the middle of a blog post. Kind of, if you've ever looked at the old, I want to say Gawker, but it's now Gizmodo Media group sites, where they'll be talking about a previous article, and then like in the middle of the article they'll have a link to this like secondary article, and they'll show you a little excerpt from it and etc. I really think that one's great, but
I like
really
Dapper Top. So they've got one called Dapper Desktop, and what it does is it takes your image and it creates different desktop sizes. So it creates downloads. So like I have a graffiti website called Boxcar Envy where I'm uploading images of these tags on these trains and wanting to make these downloadable wallpapers, but I didn't want to size them in Photoshop, the whole thing. You install this plugin, there's a block, you upload the image, and then it does the rest of it for you. You just upload the image and hit save, and then on the back end, it creates all the sizes for you, and it makes a download link, and it does everything for you, dude. Dapper
wow,
Desktop.
that is really cool.
Dude, yeah.
That's amazing.
There's another one I really like called Altered Reality, which effectively lets you apply Instagram filters to any photos that you upload. So you want to do a few. There's Dapper Desktop. Jason's showing it right now.
Yeah.
but altered reality effectively allows you to
and then go to the front end, man.
Oh yeah.
Altered.
What are we doing? This is boring. Great. This is boring. This is boring.
So altered reality. Altered reality doesn't have.
Like, let's watch Jason scroll.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to find what it was doing.
It's fine. So
I'm just giving you a hard time.
So with Sorta Brilliant, each of these pieces that you install is a separate plugin. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like Altered Reality, Block Shots, Lazy List, those are all separate plugins. So each one that you want, you have to install.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
And it's an important distinction. Is actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Russ.
One thing that I know talks a lot about is like PDFs and making things downloadable and like white paper and stuff for clients. And Card Catalog is a plugin that it shows you all the PDFs in like a minimal way, but like you can show 20 PDFs on a page, like an icon, and make them downloadable, and like it's really easy to do. Like these blocks are really solving kind of problems that Nick himself had,
That's rad.
Yeah.
See,
cool.
and the thing I like about this is instead of having, and I feel like I know where Steve's going, instead of having a single plugin where you're installing it's kind of a kitchen sink plugin. Think of Jetpack for WordPress blocks. Instead of installing a plugin that has 20 or 30 different blocks just to get one or two, you can install an individual plugin and just get the one block you need.
That's exactly
and
right.
I really appreciate that he's broken things out like that.
Yeah, because a library like Atomic Blocks, you have to install. It's all or nothing, right? So you install the entire library, and if you just want one block, you now have all this overhead as a result.
It's really not that much overhead. You can find new things that way, and that is so much more empowering to the client.
I totally get it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's a different approach, right? And so,
but here's the real question: what does the plugin directory on an install that has a bunch of these individual block plugins installed? Like, what does that? That starts to get cray, right?
It can get cray, as the kids say these days.
You have to update each of those separately.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah, you probably would.
That's a lot of work. I don't know. That's a lot.
Yeah, but
popping up in my feed.
But the way that he's doing it, like he not himself, like he has different developers that he's reaching out to. So, like they're kind of maintaining it. So now he's kind of like managing the building of these, if you will.
Really more like
so there's a similar project you might want to look at called Gutenberg Hub.
And
so Gutenberg Hub is another place where it's a collection of other people's blocks, and they're sort of abstracted. So, and they're organized by the things that they do, right? And so if you browse the templates in the Gutenberg Hub, you can look at all the hero blocks, the testimonial blocks, the team blocks. And so they're organizing a whole bunch of block libraries into one directory for you. But, unlike Sorta Brilliant, what they're doing is they might point you to co-blocks or atomic blocks for one block, but you're installing an entire library. And so what they're doing is creating sort of a guide for some of the blocks that are being developed.
Right. But
That's cool.
I still think that I like the one and done approach, because my whole goal here is not building sites that I have to get pinged on for every time a customer or a client wants to be like, oh, I want to add, this thing now. And now they're like, oh, I have to call you. Like, this is the whole point, to keep me out of that. They're writing a post and they want to, do a certain type of column, and now they need to call me again. Like, oh my God.
So let's talk about let's talk about atomic blocks. Let's shift gears here and talk about your favorite library.
Well, I mean, it was my favorite library, honestly, because it was one of the first ones I came to. Incidentally, recently bought by WP Engine.
Got it.
So, but I honestly, the call to action block is call to action block. They also have advanced columns and advanced containers, so you can do sizing and margins and adding on things. So it really gives you, like, honestly, it feels like old school CSS and HTML in there, which is weird, because I feel like we're going backwards with static sites and inline adding. But I don't know, like that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants the ability to make a column, and maybe they want to make a column that's 1/4 and 3/4, or maybe they want to make a column that is half
I'm just
2/4. Like, whoa,
And
like
so
I'm just so glad that we're getting away from short codes and that of okay, now you need a short code for now you need a short code for this column, that column. Like this is just so much easier.
And so this is one of the issues you can run into, right? You if you have a couple of different block libraries, so you're pulling some from one and some from the other, you're going to get some crossover, right? And so one of the next ones I was going to mention was one called Advanced Gutenberg Blocks, right? And that's a good one. It's one that I've used recently, but it has some crossover with Atomic Blocks, right? And so you end up with multiple blocks that's
gotta be awful.
Duplicate functionality, right? You end up with multiple ways. You end up with multiple ways to make columns and grids and things like that,
which is going to be its own set of confusingness for a client. So I don't think you can have on a client site, honestly, more than one of these, because even now, Atomic Block and Gutenberg have overlap features.
They do.
Columns on Gutenberg, Gutenberg Classic, let's call it, just to keep making things up. And then they have like a divider on Gutenberg regular, classic, whatever. And on Atomic Blocks, they have a spacer that becomes, a divider. And that can be really confusing, I think, also for a client.
So since we're talking about other block libraries, I want to get as many in as we can. One of the other ones that I use is it's from Brainstorm Force, which is Ultimate Add-ons for Gutenberg.
Yeah.
Right? They make another plugin called Ultimate Add-ons for Beaver Builder, which is decent. This is a free library that you can download from the WordPress plugin repo. But that's a good product and a decent amount of blocks that you get with that one.
We got a question in the chat. JD asks, can you turn part of the block library off?
It depends on the block library. So with Advanced Gutenberg Blocks, yes, it's like Jetpack. You can pick and choose which blocks you want to show. That's not true of some of the others. I don't know the specifics, but I do know that one.
Let's ask the internet. I don't actually know the answer to this.
The last one I want to mention is sort of a block library and a page builder all in one. And so I'm still, I can't vouch for this one because I'm still getting used to it, but it's called CoBlocks.
Yeah.
Right. And so CoBlocks has a lot of interesting things they're doing, but with CoBlocks, it feels to me like it's more like a page builder. And so you sort of need to use the entire system. So you're not getting individual blocks. You can't just sort of break those out and use it with your own system. I don't know if that's true. It's what it seems like to me.
That's what it seems like to me too. Like it's a new imagineering of what the page builder experience would be like with blocks.
Yep.
See, and that there's the interesting thing, because they've gone off and built their own thing, and now we have the WordPress core team working on Gutenberg has added block patterns, which will allow, and they look really interesting. They'll allow people to effectively make
layouts.
Like they'll make layouts, have that available for people, and kind of make something like CoBlocks a little less necessary. It's almost like the move from Beaver Builder to Gutenberg, even though Beaver Builder is its own thing and still has a lot of use. They're kind of Watsoning them a little bit.
It's essentially replacing Beaver Themer.
Right.
So
really?
I think that in order to, first of all, I think what's happening is we're in the middle phase. And we are statedly in the middle phase of the Gutenberg development timeline. But I think what that really means is everyone's developing a bunch of solutions right now that are probably going to get a little more, going to be obsolete in a year or two.
Right.
Simply because that's the direction Gutenberg is going in. But we still need solutions for sites. You can't build, a site right now with something that's coming in the future. So we still have to use those things, but I definitely think there's a lot of stuff that's going to be have redundancy with what's coming.
I'm powering everything at the Plaza. Like we're building our own stuff for Gutenberg, and I'm using ACF for that. Advanced custom fields.
Yes.
That's the way that they're letting you build your own blocks. And, these aren't things that I'm distributing. This is a plugin that I want to have. This is something that I want to do, and kind of like sort of brilliant. I have this idea for a block. Let me put it together, and, I can do it with ACF. And that's kind of where I'm approaching this as of right now. That's kind of that old school developer in me,
That might be my gateway drug to this.
I'm really happy you mentioned that one, Russ. I forgot about that one. We've used that as well. That ACF Block Builder is amazing.
Yeah. Not only that, like they just show you how to register things, and like they already have the code. You just copy, paste, and drop your stuff in there, and it's spun up. Like it's if you don't want to learn the way to build these blocks, however, whatever. Like ACF is just always the answer.
Yeah, the only thing I've run into it, we've used it and we've used it extensively. The only thing problem I've run into it is if you have a lot of customization in your block, if there's a lot of fields, it can get slow. So it is resource intensive.
ACF slow?
I know. and we use it on everything. We love ACF, but yes, it can get slow. You have to use it sparingly.
Yeah, I think ACF can be dangerous. One of those dangerous too much power tools for kind of your average client, because they're going to start making custom stuff for everything that they probably don't have to make custom stuff for. So I think that's something, if you're building a site for someone as opposed to someone who's building their own site and maybe more on the not super technical side.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you can get carried away really quickly, and then
like the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah, you're like, I'm doing all the things, and then all of a sudden you have this giant tangle of stuff.
Right, all of a sudden you're beating a drum, and I don't know where that came from.
I do think that one of the things that, and I don't know, maybe this is happening with some of this stuff, but in order to really have these full block templates happen, I think you're going to need to be able to lock blocks. Lock blocks.
Lock blocks.
Like, so you can, lock them so that...
Say that 5 times fast.
Lock. Well, it's not. They could. But, so I don't know.
There's a computer screen on your head nonetheless.
Do any of the ones that y'all have worked with yet have that capability where you're not able to, or are you using it that way where you're, maybe putting a header on every page a certain way or something like that, where you lock the block so it can't be moved or deleted?
No, I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
I know in Beaver Builder that you can do that, where you can lock the areas and then use roles as the way of kind of controlling that. So
yeah, you can do that in Divi too. So those still have the advantage in terms of the builder, that's one of the reasons that Gutenberg is not ready yet for that level. Like, even if you just had a blank theme that you could just throw headers and footers up on every page, it's not quite ready for that, because then you have a client who's in there deleting their header on their page, and then they're like, that's a new kind of headless WordPress.
So it looks like someone has built a block permissions plugin called Block Permissions. Check that out.
Why did they call it Block? Like, what the heck?
Block.
They probably couldn't get the rights to the naming in Russia, so they were just like, guys, give it up.
But they got the Slug Block - permissions, which is pretty good. So at least they locked that down.
Is it based on roles? I haven't looked into that. I was just wondering.
Yeah, it says it uses roles to do it.
That is great, because then you could have because if you have people who are writing blogs, and I actually have been using roles more and more in on client sites, especially for bigger client sites. There's a lot of contracting for writing and stuff, and it would be really great to not give just someone with an editor or a contributor the power to like really go to town, because then they end up messing with the style, and then they've designed a whole like custom look of a page that's not supposed to be a page. It's just supposed to be a simple post, and it's got like a cover photo on it and like all this stuff.
Yeah,
that I think is really important, because again, even with blocks, this is a lot more powerful, even though it's simple. And it's great, but it also, for the client, I think it just needs to be simple, which is why having multiple block libraries installed, that doesn't make it simpler. That just makes it confusing.
So there's one more block library that I wanted to mention. It's called Qubely.
Qubely?
don't know if anybody's played with Qubely. Let me find how to spell that.
I've never heard of Qubely.
Yeah, Qubely's a newer one, and Qubely is kind of a page builder and a block library all in one. And so the blocks themselves, there's a fair amount of blocks that you find in the other libraries, but the blocks themselves, when you click on them, the customization features are extensive, right? And so fonts, colors, padding, margin, all that stuff is in there. So the kinds of things that you've seen in another page builder are sort of built into the block itself. And so it's an interesting take on blocks.
So when you guys are building a site using, say, one or more of these libraries, are you having to kind of determine, like, I'm going to use this header block from this one in a certain place, and then in other parts of the site, I'm going to use this text block for, like, how are you kind of managing for consistency's sake? Because I always seem like I'm looking through all these blocks. I do have one site that uses them, and it seems like there's just, with all the libraries, they're all duplicate of one another. And it kind of goes back to JD's question of, can you disable some of these? It's like you need to kind of find the ones that are going to work best for you.
Here's the limitation. I'm speaking purely from a developer standpoint. Right? The limitation is what the block spits out on the front end of the website. And so it's not easy to customize, because the way Gutenberg works is you fill out your information and it then writes it to the database, and it's kind of set at that point, right? And so whatever the block writes is what it writes. And so in saying that, my short answer to your question, and this might not be everybody else's answer, is we're actually writing our own. And so we're creating our own blocks based on the needs of whatever site we're building.
See, I think that would obviously be ideal, because then you don't have a bunch of random stuff coming in, right? So even with atomic blocks, if the style of the images on a certain site are, all of the images have a white border, or, there's no overlay, which, by the way, has accessibility issues, like cover overlay pictures. But then the client's in there and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this overlay. Although I guess cover is kind of a basic block anyway. But anyway, they go in there and they're adding stuff, and it can actually, not align with the style of the site.
Yep. And
depending on how important that is, I think that type of thing is important from a branding, a marketing, a visual perspective. Then it just becomes kind of a free-for-all. And that, especially if you're on a more professional site where that's like the stuff that Steve builds, as opposed to the Yahoos I work with.
The one thing I also wanted to mention is, if you're thinking about creating your own blocks and you're used to creating WordPress themes in PHP and CSS, it's not that. Blocks are done in React, and so it's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different language, and so it's not for the faint of heart.
It's like somebody told us once a long time ago to learn JavaScript deeply.
I was just going to say that. I was gonna say that. Except for he didn't tell us to learn React deeply. Everyone would have had it to fit.
Everybody would have reacted differently.
Yeah, it's not impossible, but it is. If you come from the PHP world, it's not one-to-one.
I mean, that's why if you're not building custom, and by the way, getting paid for the custom, because Steve gets paid for the custom, like hardcore, right? Like you should be using an interim solution like ACF, or using a block library like Atomic Blocks, because let them do the updates. Let's do all that stuff. Like Steve's gonna, keep those blocks updated and at their best code, and ACF will, basically keep that stuff updated. Atomic Blocks, the blocks are gonna get updated as stuff happens. But if you're spinning up your own blocks and just letting them loose on the site, it's basically like back in the day when everyone was just spinning up plugins that never got updated and weren't in alignment with the core code anymore. Especially since we're moving to much quicker updates, in theory, always.
Right.
So I think that's just something to be wary of. Again, they're really powerful tools, but you need to modulate what you're using in accordance with how much you're getting paid, really, and how much work you need to do on it, and how much the client should have, how much power the client should have.
Well, that wraps it up today. Thanks, Say, you actually wrapped it up very nicely. So thank you very much for doing that, Say. I want to say thank you very much for all of you for watching us. Go over to our website over at WPwatercooler.com, and you can find all the information over there. If you want to subscribe, WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. And if you want to join us on the show, you can go to WPwatercooler.com/join us. Talk to you all later. You have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.